embedded system design we were discussing. Now we are going for embedded firmware design and development. How exactly we can design and we can develop. So first of all, we should know what exactly is the firmware. The firmware is responsible for controlling the various peripherals of the embedded hardware and generating response in accordance with the functional requirement. See here, we have a hardware and we have a functional requirement. First, we have to control different peripherals which are there in the embedded system. That is the first thing. And also, with respect to the functions, what are the different functions we are having, or we may be executing functions one at a time. Based on the functions, we have to go ahead with our operation. Functional requirements mentioned in the requirement for the particular embedded product. So there are various functions are available. Different types of peripherals are connected. Based on the functions, based on the operation, based on the event, some actions has to be taken with respect to the particular hardware. Firmware is considered as the master brain of the embedded system. Firmware is basically a brain of the embedded system, we call that. Embedded firmware is stored as a permanent memory. Embedded firmware stored at a permanent memory. That is in ROM only, it will be there itself. Designing embedded firmware requirements. So if you want to go for designing the firmware, what are the different requirements? First thing is understanding the particular embedded product hardware. What exactly the product hardware is there? Like various components like interfacing, memory and peripheral devices, what we are having, IO devices. We may be having some external devices which are connecting. We may be having some plug and play devices we may be having over there. So we should know what are all the hardwares which are connected, what are all the different peripheral devices which are connected for that particular embedded system. IO ports, different types of IO ports also you should know, because each port will be executing for different purpose. You might have heard about port 0, port 80, port 23. Different types of ports are there. Even in our ARM also, we are having different ports like port 0 and port 1. Port 0 and port 1, port 0 is of 32-bit, port 1 is also of 32-bit. So where we are going to have different operations with respect to ports. Similarly, in our embedded system, if we have different IO ports, we should know the details of them. Configuration and register details of various hardware chips used. Obviously, we will be having a total embedded system. In that one, we will be having various chips mounted on that one. Like example is LPC2148. LPC2148, you should know the configuration of that one. There are ARM7, ARM9, ARM10, different types of ARM processors are there. We should know the configuration of that one. How many pins are there, how many input pins are there, how many output pins are there, what are all the functionalities of that one. Everything we should know. And also the programming languages. It is not that only hardware details or register details. We should also know about what type of programming language we are going to use. Whether we are using the assembly level language, whether we are using low level language, whether we are using the high level programming language, everything should be thoroughly studied in detail before going for firmware designing. Okay, so these are the basic requirements. One is the hardware parts, second one is the peripherals, and third one is the registers, different types of registers, and fourth one is the what are the different languages we are going to use that. Embedded firmware development process starts with how it is. It starts with what? The conversion of the firmware requirements into a program model. Definitely. What is the basic requirement is the firmware what we are having, it's a hardware, how we can go for the programming model. Using modeling skills like UML, Uniform Markup Language, or flowchart based representation, as we have discussed in the previous topic or previous sessions. Either you can use UML or you can use flowchart. Like the firmware, first it has to be simplified in the programming model. The UML diagram and flowchart gives a diagrammatic representation of the decision items to be taken and the task to be performed. So basically what happens, the flowchart, it's going to show what are the next steps. If there is a condition, where exactly it should go. If this is executed, what should be the next step? Everything will be one by one, like a structured programming language, what we say, like that it will move ahead. Similarly, UML also will say that one, if I execute this particular operation, what is the next one? Like that we can go ahead. So different approaches. What are the different approaches we can go ahead for embedded designs, firmware design? Basically, there are two approaches are used for embedded firmware design. Two different approaches are there. The firmware design approaches for the embedded product is purely dependent on the complexity of the function to be performed, the speed of operation required. See, obviously what happens? No. If the system is very simple, the speed is high. If the system is very complex, definitely the speed will be reduced because there are a lot of complexities there. We should take care of all the operation, so speed may reduce over there. So basically, whenever you are designing the embedded firmware, the basic concepts, basic design approach is basically depends on one is the complexity of the embedded firmware, and second one is the speed of the system. Two basic approaches are used for embedded firmware design. They are conventional products procedural based firmware design, also known as super loop model. Second one is embedded operating system based design. One is OS based design, other one is the super loop model. So two different types of approaches are considered whenever you are going for embedded firmware design. So in a simple name, you can go for super loop model. In the second one, OS based. Which are the embedded system, operating system you are using based on that. Let us go with the first one. What do you mean by super loop based approach? Whenever you are designing the embedded firmware, you should go for two different approaches. One is the super loop model approach. Second one is the OS based approach. The first one is super loop based approach. The super loop based approach firmware development approach is adapted for applications that are not time critical. Very, very important. That are not time critical and where the response time is not so important. What happens now? Some of the embedded system what you are going to design, it's not that much time critical. We have already come across some of the basic models, simple embedded systems are there. Okay, so they are all not time critical. Like simple example is your ATM machine or chocolate vending machine. It may take, sometimes it may work fast, sometimes it may work little bit slow also, depending on the server, depending on the details it has to check. So, but it doesn't mean that when it has to wait for half an hour or 1 hour. Time critical in the sense, hard real time and soft real time. We have already discussed this. Hard real time is very, very critical with respect to time. Even a fraction of second should not vary. But soft real time, it can vary over there. It can vary. So, super loop based firmware development approach is adopted for applications that are not time critical and where the response time is not important. Super loop approach is very similar to a conventional procedural programming where the code is executed task by task. The task listed at the top of the program code is executed first and the task just below the top of are executed after the completion of the first task. This is a true procedural one. So any procedural based we have, we'll call them as a super loop model. In a multiple task based system, each task is executed in series in this approach. So that is why we call them as a super loop. One after this, it's going to be executed over this. The firmware execution flow for this will be, configure the, so some 8 steps are there. Configure the common parameters and perform initialization for various hardware components, memory, register, etc. First of all, we should know what are the different registers are required, what are the different hardwares are required, what are the memory is required, and everything we have to identify that. First thing is identifying. That is just like declaring all the variables in our regular procedure programming language. We will be declaring all the variables at the beginning only. When you write a main program, in that one you are going to declare all the basic requirements, like how many registers require, how many variables are required, whether it's a integer, character, float, array, or structure. Everything will be defined at the beginning. Similarly, in your embedded firmware design also, the first fundamental step is identifying and configuring common parameters required, like registers, memory, IO devices, everything. Start the first task and execute it is the next step. We should go for first task. First task. What is the first task? We should check it out. We should execute that. Then we should go for execute the second, execute the third, execute fourth, fifth, like this. You can go for that one. Then finally, last defined task. These are the last defined task. So just analyze how you are writing your C program or data structure program, how it is going to be executed one after the other. Similarly, your super loop model also will be doing all those things. And finally, after completing the last one, jump back to the first task and follow the same flow. Like your chocolate vending machine, your talking tom, or any toy which is embedded system, it keep on performing one after the other. Finally, it will come back to the first task itself. So this is what a super loop model comes into picture. Keep executing one after the other, then finally come back to the first model. From the firmware execution sequence, it is obvious that the order in which the tasks to be executed are fixed and they are hard-coded in the code itself. Hope everyone is getting what I am explaining. Can I get some acknowledgement from your end? What is super loop model? How super loop model is going to work? What and all the super loop model is going to be considered? And what exactly is the difference between super loop model and also OS based model? I need an acknowledgement from one of you. Everything is going on smoothly. Excuse me. Hello? Hello? Can anyone respond? I need a response from your end. No one is responding. Any issues? Adarsh, Ayush, Anjali? I'm not getting any response from your end. Harish?
Yes, sir.
I'm not getting a response from you people. Why? So hope you completed a 3.5 model. 3.5 model is okay for you to write the exam. Is that? See,
No, sir,
not
not like that, sir.
you should know all the 5 modules. Be like a doctor. Don't be like an engineer. Doctor will say, I will not study. He cannot say that when I have not studied this syllabus, I cannot treat you. Doctor has to know everything. All the syllabus, whatever is there, he has to learn that one. Engineers also should be like doctor only. He should know each and every line in the textbook or syllabus. I mean, even beyond the syllabus also, you should know. See, if you respond, then it will be, even I can feel happy. If you don't respond, then I can, it is like just one-way communication. It should not be. Super loop model, I'm going ahead. This is how it's going to be executed. It's one after the other in a series, in a sequential manner, it's going to execute. We can visualize the operational sequence listed above in terms of the C programming code. That's what I told you. Before coming to this slide only, I told you how exactly a super loop model is going to work. See, main loop is there, inside that one while loop is there. Main loop, inside that one while loop. Inside that one task 1, task 2, task 3. So task 1, task 2, task 3 up to task n, then once again go back to while loop. And once the while loop is completed, then come back to main. So similarly, a super loop model is going to work like this. We can visualize the operational sequence listed above in terms of the C programming code. As from the above C code, you can see that the task 1 to n are performed one after the another. When the last task, n task is executed, the firmware execution is again redirected to task 1 and it is repeated forever in the loop. Because while 1 they have given, so it's keep on repeating. So task 1 to n, 1 to n, 1 to n, it's keep on repeating over there. This repetition is achieved by using an infinite loop This approach is also referred as a super loop based approach. One simple example they have taken here. You don't know what is happening inside, but the structure says that it's a super loop model. If there is a question on what are the two different approaches for embedded firmware design, you should explain. One is super loop model, that is conventional. Second one is the OS model, that is embedded operating system based model. So super loop model, you can explain with this example. Since the tasks are running inside an infinite loop, the only way to come out of the loop is either a hardware reset or an interrupt assertion. See, ATM machine, what happens? It's keep on doing the same work. One person will go, he will insert the card and he's going to get back the money, will withdraw the money. So once he has done, when he has finished that one, then once again ATM machine has to start from the beginning. Even chocolate vending machine also same thing. Even any big factory or mega factories, it performs the same thing. Even when you go for a printing press, a newspaper printing press, it's keep on repeating the same thing. Million number of papers will be printed per day. So the process is same. Keep printing, keep printing, printing. First one is finished, go then next one. First one is finished, done, then go next one. So it's keep on printing over there. Until when it's going to be, there should be an hardware reset or there should be an interrupt assertion. Based on this only, it's going to perform. A hardware reset brings the program execution back to the main loop. An interrupt request suspends the task execution temporarily. Either you can go for interrupt or you can go for hardware reset. Any one of that one you can check it out. And performs the corresponding interrupt routine, and on completion of the interrupt routine, it restarts the task execution from the point where it is got interrupted over there. Either you can reset, hardware reset you can do, or you can go for an interrupt. The super loop based design doesn't require an operating system, since there is no need for scheduling which task is to be executed and assigning priority to each task. That is one of the very important feature of super loop model, because already we have defined it, no need of an operating system for that one. That is why clearly it is mentioned, one is based on the operating system, other one is based on the super loop model. So since the second category is based on the operating system, the first category super loop model doesn't require an operating system. Since there is no need for scheduling which task is to be executed and assigning priority to each task. In a super loop based design, the priorities are fixed and the order in which the task is to be executed are also fixed. That is one of the advantage. Hence, the code for performing these tasks will be residing in the code memory without an operating system image. That is why all electronic toys what we are going to get in the market, they will not be having an operating system, because code memory is there. In that one, already the code is dumped. Just you push the button, the power button, automatically your toys will be working over there. You don't require any OS. It's already predefined. The code is predefined. Just execute the code. Super loop based design is deployed in low cost embedded products and products where response time is not time critical. Some embedded products demand this type of approach. Reading and writing data to and from the card using a card reader requires a sequence of operations like checking the presence of card, authenticating the operation, reading and writing, etc. So everywhere we are having the card reader. Petrol pump, we are having card reader. Malls, we are having card reader. When you go for a cafeteria, you're going to have the card reader. Even a small shop, it's going to be a card reader will be there. So just give the card. The process is same. No need to have the operating system. Just a code will be there. The code will keep on executing one step after the other. A typical example of a super loop based product is an electronic video game toy containing keypad and display unit. The program running inside the product may be designed in such a way that it reads the keys to detect whether the user has given any input, and if any key press is detected, the graphic display is updated. So any electronic toy or electronic game, as soon as it is waiting for the user to give the input. Based on the input, it just executes that particular operation. So electronic toys what we are having, they're all super loop based design. Superloop model based design embedded system, they don't require any operating system to execute. So whatever the electronic toys you're having in your home, all are sequential, one after the other, based on the input what you're going to give. Superloop based design is simple and straightforward without any OS related overheads. The major drawback of this approach is that any failure in any part of the task will affect the total system. Major issue with respect to Superloop model is if you get stuck in between, the entire system is going to get affected. So because you cannot process further, because it all depends on the sequential it's executing. If the third statement is not executing, remaining statement cannot execute. Even if the last statement is not completed, then it cannot come back to the first statement. That is where we're going to have a problem. Okay, it's going to be affected. You are going to insert a card, ATM card, and you're going to give the PIN. PIN is recognized. Then there is no currency in your system. Immediately it will tell that when there is no currency, you cannot withdraw. So the entire remaining operations will get struck over there itself. Okay, even though it's some ATM machines now that it is updated actually. Previously, some ATM machines it takes all the commands one after the other. Finally, when you give the PIN and waiting for the currency to be dispatched, it will show there is an error in the system. You cannot get the currency. So you might have spent 2 minutes over there to check everything step by step, step by step. But now the ATM machines have updated. Instantly, you can get the cash also. So previously it was having. So Superloop based models basically they are if it gets stuck in between, you will be having a problem. Ultimately, the product stops functioning. Another major drawback of the Superloop based design approach is the lack of real timeliness. Lack of real timeliness. There are corrective measures for this also. The best advice option in use interrupts for external events require a real-time attention. So, how to resolve this? How to resolve your Superloop based model means based on the input from the outside, external events. The best advice option is use interrupts for external events. Any external events you are having, keep on using the interrupts over there. Give me the correct input, give me the correct data. Once you give the correct data, then only it will process. Otherwise, it will tell your input is not correct. Your coin insertion, the card what you inserted is illegal, is not valid, expired, so you cannot withdraw. All those things comes into picture. So any external input if you are checking, so the problem comes like this. So that is what the Superloop based model. Any issues till now? What is Superloop based model? How exactly Superloop based model is going to execute? How we can design a embedded firmware using a Superloop based model? Almost all the electronic gadgets what we are having, most of them, there is consumer goods. Basically, they are all Superloop models. They don't have the time constraint. They're all soft real times and sequentially they're going to execute. Everything is go. So Superloop model is very simple. You can easily explain that one. Now we will move on to the next topic. That is the second approach of embedded firmware design. That is embedded OS based approach. Embedded OS based approach. The OS based approach contains operating systems which can be either a GPOS or RTOS. Very, very important. So some of them are hard real time, some of them are soft real time. To host the user written application firmware. Excuse me. The GPOS based design is very similar to a conventional PC based application development where the device contains OS like Windows, Unix, Linux, etc. for desktop PCs, and you will be creating and running user applications on top of it. Okay, so very simple. The GPOS based firmware is almost similar to your desktop applications where you're going to use the GPOS, where you're going to create and run the applications. Examples of the GPOS used in embedded product development in Microsoft Windows XP Embedded 8.1, which offer customization to use industry devices like PDAs handheld devices, portable devices, point to sale terminals, patient monitoring systems, everything comes under GPOS. Patient monitoring system, it is not controlling, patient monitoring. What it is, it's going to have the OS, it's going to keep monitoring over there itself. So it keep on giving the updations of the patients. Even PDS, personal digital assistants. Nowadays, every corner we are going to have the PDS. The conductor is having a device where you can print the ticket. You can enter the source and destination points and you can print the ticket over there. The petrol pump is having a gadget, personal data assistant. So it's going to, whenever you give the card, it's going to enter that one. So any shopping malls, they're having, assume that when you went to a shopping mall, you have purchased some goods and where he is going to enter all those things, where OS is available there in that. OS is available in that particular device. OS-based application also require driver software. Just 1 second. Okay. Embedded OS-based firmwares require driver software for different hardware present on the board to communicate with them. The real-time operating system-based design is employed in embedded product demanding real-time responses. Some real-time responses if you want. At that time, you are going to use RTOS. RTOS respond in a timely and predictable manner to events. Real-time operating system contain a real-time kernel responsible for performing preemptive multitasking, scheduler for scheduling tasks, multiple threads, etc. Everything will be there. Okay, so multitasking will be there, multiple threads will be there, multi-process will be there, and real-time kernel is taking care of all how to schedule them, which one has to be taken care. First come first serve, shortest job first, and round robin, all those type of operations comes into picture whenever you go for RTOS based embedded firmware. The RTOS allows flexible scheduling of system resources like the CPU and memory and offers some way to communicate between tasks. Very, very important. How to schedule the memory, how to schedule the CPU, how to schedule the peripheral devices which are connected, how much time is required for them. Everything will be taken care by your RTOS kernel only. Windows, Embedded Compact, PSOS, VxWorks, ThreadX, Micro C, OS3, embedded Linux, Symbian, etc. Simple examples of RTOS employed in embedded product development. There are all the examples for your RTOS based embedded systems or RTOS based RTOS operating systems. Basically, Windows Embedded Product Compact, VxWorks, ThreadX, all these things are real-time operating systems. Now, till now, we have discussed super loop model based embedded firmware design and embedded operating system based firmware design. Now, embedded firmware development languages. What are the different languages we can use for designing the embedded firmware? Embedded firmware can be a target processor, a controller specific language, can be a processor, it can be a control specific language, assembly language or a low level language, or a target processor, control independent language, it is a control independent language commonly known as high level language. C, control specific language is your low level language, assembly level language. Control independent languages are like C, C++, Java, etc. Combination of this also will be there. So like your keel. In keel what happens? I can write assembly code also, I can write C code also. Embedded C also I can write there. Assembly level programming also I can write there. So whenever you are designing an embedded system, either you can select only assembly language as your programming language, or you can select only high level language as your programming language, or you can select the. Now let us go one by one, step by step. First one, Assembly language based development, like your microprocessor, pure microprocessor 8086, or pure microcontroller 8051, or LPC 2148, where you have to write, you can write the assembly language. Assembly language is the human readable notation of machine language, whereas machine language is the processor understandable language. You know the difference. What do you mean by assembly language? What do you mean by machine language? Pure machine language, only machine can understand. Assembly language, where the human can understand that. Processors deal only with binaries are called machine language. Assembly language and machine language are processor and control dependent, and an assembly program written for one processor control family will not work with others. Very, very important. If you write a program for one processor, the same program cannot be used for other processor. See, there are so many different types of ARM processors are there. Like Atmel is there, different types of microcontrollers are there. 8051 is one type of microcontroller. And what we are using is LPC 2148. That is another type of microcontroller. We are going to have the different vendors, like Motorola microcontroller will be there. And Intel, they may be having their microcontroller. So once you write a code in one type of microcontroller, the same cannot be used for some other one. Some small changes should be there. Assembly language program is the task of writing processor-specific machine code in mnemonic form. Mnemonic, that is move, STR, LDR, INC, BHI, BLS, all these things are mnemonics. Converting the mnemonics into actual processor instruction and associated data using assembler. We can convert and we can write that assembly language, what we are going to write, that can be converted to binary. The general format of the assembly language instruction is an opcode followed by the operand. You know that. I no need to explain much about it. The opcode tells the processor or controller what to do, and the operands provide the data and information required to perform the action specified by the opcode. Example, move a comma hash 30. Move a comma hash 30. What it will do, you know that here he has given 8051. This instruction mnemonic moves decimal value of 30 to the either ARM processor, any microcontroller. Here move A is the opcode and 30 is the operand. The same instruction when written in machine language, the 30 will be converted into binary and which won't be moved to A. Where the first 8-bit binary values 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0 represents the opcode move A, and the second binary bit binary 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0 is represents the 30. See here, two different 8-bit values are there. This is with respect to 8051. I am specifically telling that one, what is the example which is given is specifically for 8051. But the same thing when you write it in LPC 2148, it is 32-bit, you have to write the 32-bit code over there. Sorry. The mnemonic INCA is an example for instruction holding operand implicitly in the opcode. The machine language represents the same to 00000100. INCA will be represented by this particular code. Assembly language instructions are written one per line. Generally, one per line they are going to write. Machine code program that consists of a sequence of assembly language instruction where each statement contains a mnemonic, that is opcode plus operand. Each line of an assembly language program is split into 4 fields as given below: label, opcode, operands, comments. Already you know this. We'll be having a label at the left side, leftmost side, then we'll be having the opcode, then we'll be having the operand, then you're going to have the comment. Comments are not mandatory. Comments are not mandatory. Comment you can give, if you don't want, you can avoid that also. See, even sometimes your labels may be there, labels may not be there, but we should have the opcode and we should have an operand. Add A is an opcode and 30 is an operand. So basically 2 operands are there. One is the source operand, another is the A is the destination operand, and is the opcode. A simple code given below using 8051 assembly language illustrates the structured assembly language programming. So it is 8051 they have given they should have given LPC 214, right? But no issue. You can write this as an example. Illustrate the structured assembly language programming. Each assembly instruction should be written in a separate line. Very, very important. You have to write it in a separate line. There is a label called delay. There is a opcode called move. R0 is the destination operand. #255 is the source operand or source data. DJNE R1 comma delay, decrement and jump. DJNE is decrement and jump. It is. You should decrement and jump. Not equal to decrement and jump not equal to R1 comma delay. So it's keep on decrementing. Which one is going to be decremented? R1 will be decremented and jump. R1 will be decremented and jump until R1 is going to become 0. The assembly program contains a main routine and it may not contain subroutines. The example given above is a subroutine which can be invoked by a main program by the assembly language. That is lcall delay, something is there. That is just an example they have given. Label can also be directly replaced by putting the desired address first and then writing the assembly code as given below. We can also use the address first and then we can write it. That is also possible. Either instead of label, you can write the address also. Assembly language program written in assembly code is saved as .asm or .source. .asm or .source. I've already given this long time since from the beginning of your lab. I told you either .asm you can write it or .s also you can write it. Any text editor like Notepad or WritePad, WordPad from Microsoft or the text editor provided by an integrated tool can be used for writing the assembly instructions. So we are having assembly instructions, writing your keel. In that one, there is a Notepad comes into picture, text editor where you can write it out. When your program is too complex or too big, the entire code can be divided into the sub-modules and each module can be reused. You can write the program in different modules and that can be used in a program. You know this. This is how it's going to look. Source file 1, source file 2, we will be having, and library files will be there. Module assembler, object file 1, object file 2, it's going to be created. Finally, you are going to get the machine code. We are going to have two source files and we are going to assemble them and it's going to create object file 1 and object file 2. Then both of them will be linked by using the library files. Then you are going to get the final object file and from the object file we are able to get the machine code. So simple notation of how your source code, that is mnemonic, will be converted into X file, or mnemonic will be converted into object file and then finally it's going to X files. Library file creation and usage. Just let me check it out. Let me stop it now because a lot of theory I have discussed today. You should know that how exactly your firmware is going to be designed using OS based or using supermodel based. Then what are the languages we are going to use? Now we are discussing about the assembly language program only. In assembly language program, when you are writing a code, what and all it's going to happen. Okay, that is for today's topic. Kindly read the syllabus, read your notes, what it has been shared in your MS Teams. Once you read it, it will be easy for you. All are theory. You can easily write and you'll get the concept easily.